Think about it. Think about it. Think about it.
And welcome back to High School Basketball Weekly. Tim Moore alongside of Rick Bua. And Rick, the high school basketball season is drawing to a close with the finals of the state tournament coming up this Saturday. We have reporting on our local teams that have been participating in the Western Mass and in the state tournament, and we're going to get right to it now. And we're going to look at the boys' action first. And let's talk a little bit about a team that we've been following. That's the Mount Greylock Mounties, Rick. They had an incredible ride in the state tournament.
Well, they got classified, Tim, with a seed of number 22, and you and I both said on this program they are not a 22 seed. We'll see where they end up. They're probably a top 10 team, and they did extremely well. They went further than the other teams that we cover on the boys' side for sure. And that's the team that week in and week out, all winter long on this program, Tim. We've been talking about
right.
their depth, senior-oriented. This was going to be the season. They set themselves up for this season last year. Fallen a little bit short. We said they had to play and beat some of the better D5 teams, especially in this area, and they competed with Drury, Hoosick Valley, and Paulo Freire. Took them right down to the wire. Could have won any of those games and lost by a slim margin on all three of them. One in particular in overtime to Drury, and they got good backcourt play by Max McAllister and Chase Doyle, and they got good up front play in the front court with Seamus Barnes, who was a stud of a big player this year. Really got better as the season went on, and Jackson Chelsea helped him out. And they did have some bigs, so they had an incredible season. They ended up 17-7. Just to review, everybody, they did win their division, the Pioneer Valley division, at 12-0. That's 22-0 in 2 seasons in that division under the new format. But it all came down to a loss to number 14 Holbrook, 75-60 in the quarterfinals. Max McAllister, the guard I just spoke about, led the way with 24 points. He had 4 two-point baskets. He had 4 threes and had 4 free throws. So it's 4-4-4 for Max. Chase Doyle, who was consistent all year long and was the quarterback of the team. The senior ended up with 18, and Seamus Barnes had 12. And just want to kind of note, Tim, and a little fun fact that someone put out recently, and I did a little bit of research myself. And in their 4 games, the 4 games they had to travel to Eastern Mass, they traveled literally 1,200 miles, 1,192 to be exact. Right. And so I said, where would they drive if they went south? Well, that would be the very, very center of the state of Virginia and back. And that, Tim, and I know, you put your little editorial in a couple of weeks ago on this show on improvements that we probably can be made in the MIAA, how much we miss the old Western Mass format, no matter if it's at the cage at UMass or wherever they decide to hold it. But I wish to God that they would bring that back, because I think the families miss it, the kids miss it, the coaches miss it, and I know we miss covering it. But congratulations to Coach Bob Thistle, right, who is such a gentleman and so courteous to us here at High School Basketball Weekly. Always willing to be on the air, whether it be over the telephone or he participated with us this year up at Drury High School when we did the special edition before the Drury Hoosick boys game. But he gets the best out of his kids. He's a very, very talented man, very nice man, and when he works with kids like he gets over at Greylock, some great student athletes over there. He gets the very best out of him, as Coach Jacoby does with his girls. So congratulations again, guys, for an incredible season over at Mount Greylock. You put it together, you went as far as you could, and that's an excellent run.
Right.
So be very proud.
They were really road warriors in that Division 5 state tournament, that's for sure. Flipping to Division 4 for a minute, 2 teams that we touched on a little bit in the course of the season, 2 outstanding high school basketball teams, Monument Mountain and Wacona, both playing in the D4 state tournament, had their seasons come to an end. And Wacona, the Warriors lost to a very good Millbury team in the Sweet 16, Rick, but that's no blemish for them. They had a great season this year.
Yeah, Wacona is very, very tough. I had them right with Monument Mountain. I think the 11 seed for Monument was fair. I think the 12 seed with Wacona was fair. I think they split the regular season this year. The game they lost was only by 11 points to Millbury in that Sweet 16 game. A couple of young men down at Wacona led the way that typically don't, and that's Jesse Chapman, who is a scorer and participates, and he's had a great season. He had 19. Lucas Picard had 11. But here's the key fact in the game, and we talk about can you slow down some of the elite players on some of these teams? You can't stop them. They are talented kids, and if you try to slow them down and you have a game plan and it works, then you could probably do it. But this is the only time I recall this entire season of 22 games that Wacona played that Brody Calvert and Pat McLaughlin were in single digits, scoring 9 and 7 apiece. They have been the catalyst of that team scoring-wise for the last 2 seasons. And Coach Belcher's got a good program down there. He has a very consistent program that he sustains every year, as Coach Liz Kay on the girls' side does. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But congratulations to the Wacona boys. Another great season, ending up at 6-6.
And they'll be back next year. You can count on that. Another team that I think is just a great team, had a great season, Rick. The Monument Mountain Spartans, they were ranked number 11 in the state in Division 4. And I'll tell you, they lost in the quarterfinals to Springfield ICS in a real close one. And I think Springfield ICS stands a good chance to win Division 4 in the States. Yeah,
we're going to show a graphic later on what's upcoming at the Tsongas Center this Saturday in the state MIA 4 and 5 finals. And, they lost to ICS 66-64 in a game that went back and forth. And they needed a couple stops down the end, ICS did, and they got those stops that prevented Monument from going forward. But they're an incredible team. They handled Berkshire County pretty well, and they just have several kids on that team that can contribute. Leading the way in that loss to ICS was Khalil Carlson with 20. He's kind of the mainstay. Kyle Wellenkamp had 15. Manny Brown had 14. Leading the Bulldogs were Sam Fleming, Kenny Rogers with 19. Josh Colon had 15, and Jalen Lovejoy had 10. So some of those names you've never heard before because we don't cover a lot of these squads, but we wanted to pay tribute to the teams that were remaining in the tournament. And the Monuments, Coach Randy Colas' kids had another incredible year. Again, another incredible program that just gets better every year. Like Wacona, like Hoosick Valley, like a lot of schools in Berkshire, like Taconic. They just reload year after year.
And talking about Taconic, Rick, they are the lone remaining boys team from Berkshire County who's competing for a state title in Division 5. The Thunder, Taconic Thunder, they are just rolling along in Division 5, and they are now set to take on number 2 undefeated David Prouty in the D5 final on this coming Saturday at the Tsongas Center, and they just don't look like they're missing a beat at all.
No, they will. It's 1 and 2. Taconic is coming in at 22 and 3. David Prouty is coming in at I believe 24-0. But I can tell you
undefeated.
They are undefeated.
That's right.
Absolutely. So we'll have to see. David Prouty is from the general Worcester area. I've seen them on TV, on the news a little bit, out of Worcester, Spectrum Worcester cable, and they've got outside shooting. They've got good penetrators. They're very, very fast. And there's a reason they're undefeated. Now you don't know what kind of teams they play in their schedule, but I can tell you that David Prouty, en route to the finals, has taken apart most of their opponents by quite a margin. So as has Taconic, and they've got 3 games for us to report upon in this last week. They took care of Paulo Freire and was probably You're not going to do it to us 2 years in a row game.
Right.
And they easily defeated Paulo Freire. And let's face it, they're not as strong as they were last year. But it's not the same Taconic team either.
Right.
But 96-57, that was in the Sweet 16. Tavon Sandifer, who's been their leading scorer all year long with 25. Bamba had 16, Santos 15. They led 53 at 20 and 24 at the half, and they never looked back. Then they took on Sutton in the Elite Eight game, and they took them down 74-57. Again, Sandifer led the way, with 26, and Jamal Sixstrunk had 15. And then they defeated last year's D5 MIA boys champion, Maynard High School, 74-52, breaking it wide open in the second half to reach the final. Bamba had 23, Sandifer 18, and Steve Patch had 5 threes for 15 for the Thunder. And as you said, Tim, it's going to be a very, very good Taconic team against a very, very good David Prouty team. I'm figuring it's going to be a close one.
Yeah.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Looking forward to a great one, and good luck to Taconic, and congratulations to them, no matter what happens in that championship game, for a truly outstanding season, the Taconic Thunder. Switching gears now onto the girls' side, Rick, 3 teams we can talk about going forward. We're going to start with the Pittsfield Lady Generals in Division III. They got knocked out by the number 2 seeded Norwell High School, 79-57, Rick, and some big things for them in that game.
Yeah, I mean, Coach Joe Rassicott has always had a good program since he has been in Pittsfield. But they came into their own. I couldn't tell you offhand what their record was last year, Tim, but they had an 18-5 record this year, and they really competed. They play up like Taconic does in the Valley Wheel, and play the bigger schools from the general Springfield area. And so they made it to the Sweet 16, and that's all you can ask for. But they were led all season long by the Duquettes, Jamie and Randy, and we want to do a little shout out for senior Jamie Duquette for joining the 1,000 point club. She had an incredible career down there for Coach Rassicott, and was the mainstay the last couple of years. So congratulations to Jamie.
Yeah, spectacular season for Jamie Duquette. She's an outstanding senior. And just did a great job. And
there's Jamie with her family there.
Her family there, and she's had a great career. Great young lady, and congratulations to her.
Yeah, she averaged 21 points a game this year, Tim. Yeah. So that's pretty good to sustain that.
Against very, very difficult competition.
Very difficult competition.
In a tough league. And I talked with Coach Rassicott actually yesterday about this game, season. He couldn't have been happier with the play of his team during the season. And he acknowledged, he said, we got beat by the better team in the Sweet 16. So he said he tipped his hat to Norwell. They were an outstanding club. Another outstanding team that continues to march on, the Wahconah Warriors, the Lady Warriors, Rick. They are now also in the D4 finals, and they'll play Saturday at the Sanger Center for their state championship in Division 4.
Yeah, this is one of the better teams, girls teams in Western Mass. They've been that way for quite some time. They're coming in with they're going to be facing number 1, so it's number 1 versus number 3, and I like their chances. There's a reason the Cathedral was ranked number 1. We'll see what happens when they face off in Lowell, excuse me, on Saturday. But Waconah's coming in with a 21-3 record. They defeated number 6 Malden Catholic, 55-48 in the quarterfinals. And Olivia Gambaroni led the way with 32. It's either her or Grace Wigington all season long. Of those 32 points, she sank 14 free throws, and Wigington herself had 12. And then they really put a hurting on Littleton High School, the number 7 seed, 86-35 in the semifinals. Wigington had 24 and Gambaroni had 20. A couple young ladies that have been role players down there had great games offensively. Madison McCarthy had 15 and Ava Macero had 12. And they'll be back next year too.
No question about it. This team is
they're loaded.
Solid team coming back, and that's really kind of the the code here for both Wahconah and a team that we're going to talk about, Hoosick Valley, in just a moment. They've got a lot coming back as well. And we'll switch gears there for a moment here and go to Hoosick Valley. They were ranked number 4 in the state. Rick, their season's come to end, but they've had a great one, and you can recap the action that they had in the state tournament.
Yeah, there was a lot went on over the last week with the Lady Hurricanes, and all I can tell you was they started a little bit on the slow side, and I know I've mentioned this several times on this show, but remember that they were 1-3 at one time,
right? And
had just come off a loss to Pittsfield High, and we did the Drury game up there. Drury battled Hoosick in the first half and led it to half. And took I believe, a 6-point lead in the third quarter.
In the third quarter, that's right.
And then I think, Tim, that's when Hoosick's season turned around. They picked up their defensive intensity, took over that game, hit some big shots on the end, and ended up defeating the Lady Blue Devils. And then they just won an incredible run. But they had to play a game of Drury during the week, Tim, that was unexpected. There were some problems at the school, at the gymnasium. So they went up to Drury High School, and it didn't stop them from knocking off Georgetown, the number 5 seed, in the quarterfinals, 59-52. In that game, Taylor Garabedian, the incredible junior, led the way, as she does quite often, with 19. Gabby Billets, the senior center, had 17. And Gabby had 1 basket and 15 free throws. So it doesn't matter how you score your points. That tells me that she got a lot of looks down low, a lot of offensive putbacks, and drew a lot of whistles and made her free throws. That's an incredible stat. Yeah. Ashlyn LaSure had 9, and Abby Scalaba had 8. Hoosick was 31 for 43 from the free throw line. So the whistles did not stop blowing up at Drury High School that night. And then they were trailing 30-25 at the half, then they outscored the Royals 34-22 in the final 2 frames. So the Hurricanes in that game, they only had 13 field goals, which is low for them, but it doesn't matter how you score your points. So if you draw fouls and you get to the free throw line and you make them, you're going to win ball games, and they did. Yep. But then they had to play number 1 Millis, Tim, and their season came to an end. They battled number 1 Millis right to final whistle, 57-47 in the semifinals. They actually trailed by 13 in the fourth quarter, but they cut the lead to 4, but just couldn't get over the hump. Millis went 12 for 12 from the free throw line in the last minute and a half to seal that win and get them into the finals. And Taylor Garabedian, again, with 19 points leading the way, Ashlyn LaSure with 12. Those 2 girls have been the 1-2 punch along with Gabby Billets offensively. But there's so many weapons we talk about on this show. There's so many girls that contribute, regardless of whether they score, they rebound, they pass the ball, play great defense. So the lone senior, Gabby Billets, who had an incredible career, Tim, we talked about Gabby a lot, what her accolades were as a member of this team. She had a great career, and the Hurricanes finished winning 19 of their last 21 games. Their only losses were to Millis and to Springfield ICS. And, they got a Western Max Class D title and came 1 game short of getting into the D5 finals for 4th consecutive year.
Right, so they've had it. That's right.
Coach John Frederick, I think he did a great job with his staff in getting these girls to learn his program because of the coaching changes over the last few years up there. But the final results haven't changed, and that says a lot about a program that has been sustained for many, many, many years.
And just 1 senior. Big loss for the Hoosick Valley. They're going to lose their outstanding senior, Gabby Billets, but that's all they're losing from this squad, the only senior. So they're going to have the real nucleus or guts of this team back next year. So they'll be heard from again next year for sure. And as you said, hats off to the Hurricanes and Coach Frederick for an outstanding season. And, Rick, as we reach the end of this season, of course, we still have 1 more show to go. We're not going to have a show next week, but we will in 2 weeks be back with our final show of the high school basketball season, when we will roll out our all Berkshire County teams, both boys and girls, at that time. Rick, we always have a good time with that. We commiserate.
Yeah.
And we,
Let's do it.
We knock
Yeah.
heads, and
Yeah.
we'll be back in a couple weeks right here, and we're going to roll it out. The All Berkshire teams here for both boys and girls. So that'll close out our season on High School Basketball Weekly. But Rick, before we go, we wanted to mention really a very sad bit of news this week, and the untimely passing of Hoosick Valley boys assistant basketball coach Mike Larrabee, who died suddenly and unexpectedly this past week. And a real loss to high school sports and youth sports in general for all of Northern Berkshire and Berkshire County, and specifically to the Adams Cheshire community. And anybody who's any children in those communities, I did have had kids who have played for Mike and or had been involved in leagues that Mike helped run or was a part of, both in baseball, basketball, and football. And just a terrible loss for the communities of Adams and Cheshire. A fine young man, and I call him a young man, passing away so unexpectedly, and just a wonderful individual.
I have known Mike since he was a young boy playing basketball, baseball, and football at McCann Tech.
McCann, right.
And was the best athletes ever at that school overall. And he took that knowledge, and he knew how to handle the kids. And so he was the Al Georgie, what Al is to Jack Reset.
Absolutely.
Had the knowledge,
right.
and he had the knack of talking to the kids and
Right.
coaching the kids. Mike Larrabee did the same thing with Coach Bill Robinson. And when you give Coach Robinson and his kids their accolades over the many years of that fine boys program down there, Mike Larrabee has always been a big part of it. So I'd like to also give my condolences to Mike's family, to Lynn and his boys, and he will certainly be missed.
Right,
sure.
and we do, on behalf of all the staff here at High School Basketball Weekly, we want to extend our condolences to the Larrabee family and the Hoosick Valley community and the Adams Cheshire community at large for the loss of Mike Larrabee. And that says it all: a coach, a mentor, a friend to so many people, so many young people throughout the Adams Cheshire community and all of actually Northern Berkshire County. So again, our condolences on the passing of Mike Larrabee. And Rick, again, we'll be back in a couple weeks. You want to stay tuned. We want to wish the best of luck to the Taconic boys and the Wacona girls as they battle for state championships, and we'll report on that in a couple weeks. And we'll also bring out our all Berkshire teams, both boys and girls, for the 22-23 season. So on behalf of our staff here and Rick Boyle will say goodbye. Good night for High School Basketball Weekly, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.